In a land of unchanging light and frozen time, the denizens were joyous. Their smiles never disappeared, but only changed in length and brightness. The people went about their days, enjoying their delicious food, soaking up the sun. Everyone had all they needed and wanted for nothing. A small fruit pit, unnoticed by the many happy walkers, spilled from a bundle of peaceful delicacies and was stamped into the ground. Step after step, the cheerful people moved over it and around it. While glancing at the jolly sun, one denizen fell out of contented lockstep, and the perky seed caught his foot. He tumbled to the ground, and though it had been finely flattened from endless gratified stomping, the unbalanced habitant ripped his knee on the soft ground. For the first time, nothing made sense. Discolored water spilled from his leg. The ground took a new shade in droplets. This didn't feel normal. It didn't feel positive. Dwellers started to take notice as another walker tripped over the confused pile on the ground and tore her elbow. Where there had been none, now there were two. The two looked at one another, eyes wild with sensations never considered. In near unison, they began to wail. Their throats were well versed in cackles, guffaws, chuckles, and giggles. But this was something new, and all they could think to do was one unending note opposite from all they had ever known. Smiles held firm all around, but they grew shorter than they had ever been. Somewhere in the distance, a leaf fell and the world shifted. Two were experiencing something deeply and new, while all others found themselves feeling something else entirely new. When all had walked and smiled at one another, it was a shared sensation that needed no supplementary understanding, simultaneous and universal, binding and complete. Now, with the sights of strange liquid and the unfamiliar guttural sounds, something else emerged to bind them. In a flash, the citizens rushed to the screamers and began puzzling how to contend with the oddness that felt foreign but strangely personal. They pressed their hands over the wailing mouths, and though that dampened the sound, it did not alleviate the intensity. They turned to the other peculiarity and pressed against the discolored water. At first, it seemed to draw more cries from the downed fellows, but it seemed to stem the flow of the odd water. Someone suggested turning the water the correct clarity by adding more water to it, and poured cool liquid down on the two. It darkened the ground further, but the fleshy discoloration washed off. Someone else offered to hide the curious spots behind soft material and wrapped it around the two's bizarre flesh. During the turmoil, the two had lost their smiles, and though no one noticed, so too did everyone else. New expressions of wonder, consideration, pain, and commiseration raced across their faces. It wasn't until the two stood again that smiles returned to everyone. Everyone felt happy again in a way they had never experienced before. Every resident was now very aware of a pit within them containing a darkness that made the light so much sweeter. A light dependent on the smiles and happiness of those around them. Silently, the small seed began to take root. The world turned for the first time, and every resident grinned, knowing something new. They never wanted to personally experience what had happened to those two, but if they did, they wouldn't be alone in it.